わさびアニメ、すごいですね。
Hello, everyone. I'm Danny. I'm from Dinosaurs Games. We are a board game company, and we have a very exciting Kickstarter that is live right now. If you've played board games before, you might be familiar with Dinosaur Island, which is a dino-rific. Uh, I'm embarrassed I said that. I shouldn't have gone that route. It is a super rad board game set in the 90s, kind of riffs on Jurassic Park, which you may be able to tell. But we now have Dinosaur World, which is a standalone sequel to Dinosaur Island. So a few years into the future, companies have been rebooted. Hopefully the people running those companies have learned lessons from Dinosaur Island and all of the people that got eaten in that game. Dinosaur World is a little bit heavier, more puzzly. It's worker placement, meaning we're going to be placing meeples all over these central boards and our private boards, taking actions to make awesome things happen in our dinosaur amusement park. The game will play over 5 rounds, and then at the end of the game, whoever has the most victory points wins. Pretty standard scoring, but the gameplay itself is pretty unique. So I have it mock set up for a 3-player game. We're not playing the game in this event because it's just me and I don't want to control 3 people, but I will be giving you a pretty solid overview of how to play the game. And if it strikes your fancy, if you want to play with some dinos, you can go ahead and check out our Kickstarter page. The campaign is live until through October 16th until midnight. We've unlocked quite a few awesome stretch goals, like artwork on the dino meeples. We have custom meeple shapes for your workers, new artwork, lots and lots of exciting things. So I hope you enjoy the game and you like it enough to head on over to Kickstarter. Anyway, let's dive into this. So you see before you 3 central island boards with a whole bunch of tiles, dice, worker meeples, dino meeples, lots of cool stuff. So as I mentioned, the game will play over 5 rounds. Each round, there are 4 phases. The first phase is a public action phase where we'll all be using meeples to take these tiles and place them into our parks. We'll do that until everyone's passed, then go to a private park phase where we use other meeples to take actions that only pertain to us. And then we go through a Jeep tour phase where we drive our Jeep meeple, or Jeeple as we officially call it in the rulebook, through our park, activating our different attractions and visiting dinos, and probably having some visitor deaths. Fingers crossed not, though. At the very beginning of the game, we'll have drafted a few tiles, so we start with something in our park to give us a vague idea of the direction we want to go. So here is my player board. You can see I've already drafted an incubator tile, which will let me create dinosaurs using less resources, and my very own Hadrosaurus paddock, but there aren't any dinosaurs in there yet. Also, at the beginning of the game, we'll have revealed 3 objective cards. Now, if you've played Dinosaur Island, this is one point where this varies. In Dino Island, these objectives were actually the end game timer. So depending on the length of the game, we would reveal different objectives, and once they were all reached, the game ended. So it was really a race. You didn't know exactly when the game was going to end. In this game, the game ends after a set 5 rounds. So you always know where you're at in the game, which is nice. These objectives serve only to grant you extra victory points if you complete them. So we have 3 stacks. There's an A stack, which typically involves building X amount of dinos. In this case, we have create 6 large carnivore dinosaurs in your park. So that red paw print means large carnivore. The B stack usually pertains to buildings. So for this one, we have 5 special buildings and 2 dinosaur tiles in your park of those types, which are any. And then finally, stack C usually pertains to DNA, different combinations, different amounts. For this one, we just need to have 20 DNA of any type, mix and match in our personal reserves. So you can see at the top, there's different victory point amounts for first, second, and third place. So you'll just put your little player color marker there to call dibs. That's basically all of beginning game setup. We do start with a set amount of DNA. As you can see here, I have 2 each of the basic DNA types, the primary colors to the left, and 1 each of the advanced DNA types, the secondary colors to the right. You might have guessed, but we'll be using DNA to create our very own dinosaurs in our park. While I'm here, I might as well show you the rest of the player board. This red track in the middle, that is our threat level. So as we build more dinosaurs, it becomes increasingly more likely that there will be emergencies that happen in your park. So this is how we track all of those threats. Next to it, that yellow track is the security track. So you want to make sure it's almost always in parity with the threat level. If your threat level is higher than your security, there's no nice way to say it. Guests are going to get eaten. So you want to avoid that as often as possible. And then finally, to the right side of your player board, we have the Jeep track. So I mentioned the Jeep tour phase earlier. This is where you go to upgrade your Jeep to make them travel further to get special bonuses. This is a new feature in Dinosaur World that differs from Dino Island. The rest of the player board, everything to the left of the Jeep, is pretty standard. You'll see a lot of similarities there to Dino Island. Just the way that you gain them and that they're used are pretty significantly different. Every player will have these round tokens, and you might notice that there are round indentations on the right side of your player board. So at the beginning of the game, each player will pick one of these Jeep bonuses to start with. I usually go with security because I plan on making a lot of dinosaurs. So you'll notice that there are 3 left. You'll end up with 3 more tokens throughout the game. If you focus on improving your Jeep, entirely up to you. Because I've chosen security, I get that bonus immediately. It's super handy. So that's that. Now on to gameplay. I mentioned the 3 phases: public phase, private phase, and Jeep phase. So in the beginning of the public phase, we're going to be drafting these worker database cards. You'll notice that each of them have a different variety of different combination of meeples on them. These are going to be the workers we use for the entire round, not just for a specific phase. So you'll have 9 meeples to work with and divide however you choose between public and private. Each worker color does have a different specialty. So let's see if I can zoom in on these. Oh, I don't know if that's big enough. Purple workers, those are your park rangers. So those are typically tied to Jeep actions. If you notice the Jeep track is purple, makes sense. Green workers are administrators. They're typically tied to money actions. Blue is your scientists. So they often correlate to DNA actions. Yellow are your security workers, so they'll be used to increase your security. And then white, they're seasonal workers or, college students who you've hired on to do whatever odd jobs you have. They are not wild, but they can be used in different combinations. They're not very efficient. So these little numbers at the bottom of the card just show you how many of each color there are. And then the symbol in the very bottom, that's just to help with our customer service. In case you're missing a card, we know exactly which one you need, instead of having to be like, well, I need the blue one, the one with 2 blues and 3 greens and yada yada. Don't have to worry about it. So after you pick a card, let's say we're going to pick the one I just showed you. So you'd pick all of those meeples on the card. We got a purple, a green, a blue, and 2 yellows. and then 4 seasonal workers. I liked this combo because it had a little bit of everything, which will be very useful as they teach you how to play the game. So let me just put these dudes down there for later, and then we can just go ahead and ignore these cards for the rest of the teach. So on to the rest of the public phase. I mentioned we have these workers for the entire round, and it's up to us to decide how to split them up. So the public phase will keep going around, each player doing one action until all players have decided to pass, because they may want to use fewer meeples in the public phase, save the rest for the private. It just depends on what you want to do, how much money you have, the combo of meeples you chose from the database. It's quite variable. So actions you can do in the public phase are all on these 3 central island boards. There's basically 4 actions you can do. The first one, let me zoom in here. You can buy a dinosaur enclosure. There will be 3 face-up options and then a stack that we'll use to refill. So you'll see a lot of symbology underneath the action name. This means that you can use an administrator, a green meeple, and pay $1 fewer, or you can use 2 of any meeples. You can use 1 administrator to buy a paddock or 2 of any to buy a paddock. So in this case, the green administrators tied to money are slightly more efficient. You only need 1 of them as opposed to 2 meeples to do this action. So there will be a variety of dinosaurs out here. Right now it happens to just be all herbivores. You can tell they're herbivores because it has a green border around it, and there's a little leaf icon in the top right. It's very handy. We also have small carnivores, which are purple, and then large carnivores, which are red. And you've already seen the giant paw print that symbolizes large carnivores. So say you've paid your meeple, 1 green or 2 of any. You'll have to pay whatever the cost is in the top left, and then you'll take that tile and put it in your park. I'll go ahead and do that to show you an example. There are certain placement rules for tiles, for dinosaur tiles in particular. You can't put them next to already existing dinosaurs. This is not legal. Even though they're both herbivores, you think they're pretty friendly. No, all dinosaurs are very territorial. So you need at least 1 tile space in between them. Other buildings can touch dinosaurs without a problem. You just have to make sure to give them birth. But that's it. Generally, dinosaurs do not have victory points on them for building the enclosures. You're going to get your VPs from creating the dinosaurs themselves. It's far more exciting that way. So that is that action. Then these would move up and you'd reveal a new one. You'll see these little arrows on the board. It's important to constantly move them up when you refill, because at the very end of the round, when we do cleanup, the oldest 2 dinos that no one took will be removed from the game and will refill. This makes sure that each round you're seeing a lot of new dinos, and it keeps the variety, keeps things moving. You want to get to the T-Rex and not just hang out with the Parasaurus all day long. And I pronounced that correctly on the first try. So that's that half the board. You'll see we have another action over here, gather DNA. Now there's a lot of symbols in this action, but it's actually fairly simple. What this means is that you can spend 1, 2, or 3 meeples of any color you want and multiply that, use that number of meeples to multiply whatever die phase you choose. So we have these big chunky amber dice out here because I set it up for a 3-player game. We have 5 dice. If we had 4 players, there would be a 6th one out here. So let me just go ahead and take this action. I will take it using 3 workers total, if I can grab them. So I have 2 of my seasonal workers, my white guys, and my blue guy, my scientist. So if I want this green advanced DNA, I've spent 3 meeples, so I will multiply this die face by 3 and end up with 3 green DNA. And I just bump up my DNA track accordingly. If I chose this die face with 2 of any basic DNA, I would actually get 6 of those because I've spent 3 meeples and I multiply the entire die face by that number. So you can really make this action super awesome depending on how many meeples you spend and what the dice actually say. They're only DNA on these dice, no additional fun things. People have asked us quite a few times if these dice are compatible with Dinosaur Island because they're the same size, they're the same, in reality, they're translucent amber looking dice, they're very cool. But in Dinosaur Island, you actually had threat on your dice. So if you drafted a die with a threat value on it, you'd have to increase your threat for that round. In this game, there's no threat. The symbols are a little bit different. You could theoretically play Dinosaur Island with these dice, but you would have a very, very easy game. So would not recommend it. That is this action. Fairly simple. If you notice, however, there is a blue symbol, a scientist symbol. That means for every blue worker that you spend on this space, you get an extra basic or advanced DNA, up to you. So because I've spent 2 white and 1 blue, my 1 blue would give me 1 extra DNA of any kind. It's very nice. Moving on, we now have the middle board. On this board, you have your attractions. Now, these are essentially common buildings that are always available. There's enough for each player to build 1 of them. So these won't be refreshing at the end of the round. You'll always have a merch stand, a restaurant, a roller coaster, and a security building. You can't have 2 of the same tile in your park. So if we have a 3-player game, there will only be 3 restaurants in the game, 3 merch shops, but you don't have to worry about them being bought out from under you because they're always available. This action is a little bit special because it doesn't cost any meeples to take it. It'll just cost you whatever the coin amount is. So using the security as an example, you'll just pay your 8 coins and place it into your park. Like so. I think I took the whole dang stack of security tiles. So there you go. Now, note, at this time, we're not actually doing the effect on the tiles. We're simply putting them into our parks. It's very important. You may notice or have questions about some of these actions. I will get to them in a little bit. The final public action you can take is on the That's why we have these little arrows zigzagging down the board. This board does take a meeple to you do need a meeple to take these tiles, but that little striped icon means it can be any color you want, even a seasonal worker, a white meeple. Similarly to the others, you'll just pay whatever the cost is. So if we want this goat pen, which of course we do because it's very, very cute, you'll just pay your 4 coins and put it into your park. We don't have an example showing up here, but some of these special attractions do give you victory points when you buy them. So I'll pull up the incubator, which I drafted. You'll see in the top right, there is a little lightning bolt and a pink starburst. The number in the pink starburst is your victory points, and you'll get them immediately. And just track it over here. I think I'm actually playing as blue. There we go. We'll talk about the rest of this board a little bit later. It's going to be exciting. But that's that. So as soon as you've done these public actions to your fullest extent, you can go ahead and pass, and then we'll wait for everyone else to pass until we move on to the private phase. Now, the private phase can be done simultaneously between all players. If it's your first game or you have a new player, it is nice to do it one at a time just to make sure everyone understands what's happening, answer any questions, and just help each other learn. So I have these, how many? These 6 meeples left. Pretend I've spent all my money. So you're just going to assign the meeples you have left over to any/all of the actions you want in your player area. So we've got some common actions that every player has access to on their own player board. I'm just going to start from the top. You'll notice each one is tied to a specific meeple color. So you do want to be careful which ones you save for the private phase for this reason. At the top, we've got DNA refinement. So you can spend 1 meeple of any color or a scientist to get a bonus, and this lets you swap different DNA. You can go from a single advanced into 2 basic, or vice versa, spending the required basic DNA to get an advanced of a specific color. If you use a scientist, you will get 1 extra basic DNA. This is different than the dice drafting area where you can get either basic or advanced. This one is just basic. And you'll notice we have spaces for 3 workers, aka you can do this action 3 times in a round. The next action, VC funding, it's tied to the administrators, the green meeples. If you place a meeple here, you're going to get coins equal to the space that you've covered up. So 3, 2, or 1. If you use an administrator, you're going to get $1 extra. So you could get 4 or 3 or 2. If you use administrators across all 3 of those spaces, that is buku bucks. Good move. The next one is security. So going here with a yellow meeple gives you a discount of 1 coin. Otherwise, you'll pay whatever level you're moving to. So let me pull this board. So we're talking about security, which is the yellow track. We start on the 0 space at the very bottom. So to move up to level 1, you're going to pay 1 coin because that is the little area that you're in. Level 2 also costs just 1 coin. However, moving up into level 3 costs 2 coins, and so on. We tried to make it very clear where those delineations are, so there's no confusion. If you ever have more than 10 security, it'll just cost 4 for every level after that. And we have a little token that says, congrats, you've made it past 10, which may become necessary depending on what dinos you're making. That's security. Pretty straightforward. Again, you can take that action up to 3 times. Then we have the Jeep garage, the purple area. Similarly to security, if you use the special meeple, the purple park ranger, you'll get a discount of 1. And that correlates to the purple Jeep track on your player board. So exact same mechanics as the security. You're paying to whatever section you're moving into. However, there are some extra symbols. So you'll notice we talked a little bit about the Jeep tokens, Jeep bonus tokens, those circular things with special goodies on them. So once you reach the level that is aligned with the cutout, you'll get another one. And it also increases your Jeep movement because we will actually be driving our Jeep throughout our park, activating tiles that we visit. So as the game progresses, you're going to want increased movement to pull off crazy awesome combos and see all of your awesome dinosaurs. If you reach the very, very top of the Jeep track, it doesn't circle around like the threat and security levels do, but you do get 7 victory points. So even though you've reached 5 movement, you may be all set, but you might want to spend those extra coins to reach the very top and get victory points. Let me describe the Jeep bonus tokens. So I mentioned I start with the security right here, usually. We also have 2 coins, 2 basic DNA, 1 advanced DNA, and 1 of any meeple. So depending on what your strategy is, all of these could be a very big boon. It's just up to you. It gives you a little bonus at the end of every round. You're going to gain income of coins depending on your excitement, and also whatever Jeep bonuses you've unlocked. And then, most exciting, the very bottom of the player board, we have Make Dinosaurs. So this just costs a meeple of any color. You can do it up to 3 times per round. And they're tied to whatever you want, whatever you have available in your park. So taking a look at my park over here, I'll zoom in a little bit. I've got enclosures for Hadrosaurus and Stegosaurus. To make a Stegosaurus, I will need to spend the 2 DNA shown right underneath the name, so a yellow and a red. And then each time I make a new dinosaur, I have to spend additional DNA. So for my very first Stegosaurus, I'll need 2 yellow and 2 red because I'm covering up the very leftmost rectangle. Once I make it, I will immediately, because there's a little lightning bolt, gain 4 victory points. My second Stegosaurus will cost a yellow, red, and purple, and then I'll get a threat and 2 victory points. So costs, victory points, and threat usually increase the more dinosaurs you have. You can see that is not necessarily true for the Hadrosaurs, as the threat, those little red pips, alternate between 1 and 2. But this is one of the most fun parts of the game for me. You're going to take a very special meeple. For the tabletop simulator version, they're all the same shape. But throughout the Kickstarter, I think we've already unlocked more than 8 special meeple shapes, and they all have artworks heat transferred onto both sides of them. So you actually see the Stegosaurus has its own shape and its own artwork, and it's very, very awesome. So I'll just rotate this so it fits, place it right there, boom. Maybe eventually it'll get on there. Yeah, there we go. I'll have spent my DNA, popping these 2 yellow, 2 red down there. And lightning bolt, don't forget my victory points. So I gain 4 more. Because it was an herbivore, it did not have any threat, but my next one will. And that's Make Dinosaurs. So those are just the actions that everyone has on their player board. They do not alternate between players. There's no variation. Those are the actions. However, your park will be very different than your neighbors depending on what you each build. So right now I have 4 special tiles in my park. Let me pull up the incubator. You see an action space on this tile. So this one says if I spend specifically a blue meeple, I can create up to 2 dinosaurs at a -1 basic DNA discount. I did not save any of my blue meeples. This is where the puzzle comes in between balancing the bonuses you get in the public phase with what you want to do during the private phase, because I can't use any color. I can't use a white meeple to take the incubator action. It has to be specifically blue. And the game does a pretty good job of reminding you about that with the colored border on each tile that has a special action. So security, I need specifically a yellow meeple to take the action and increase my security. Luckily for me, I did save a yellow meeple. So I'll put this here. We've got our Stegosaurus over here. Imagine that I've taken the other actions. So I've got my security, my Jeep, I'll get some money, and I've made a dinosaur. I have 1 more worker left over. I don't have any big plans for it though, so I'm going to save it for the next round. You do carry over any unused workers to the next round, which is nice. It can help you set up some really big turns in future rounds. But now that my turns are all taken, I'm going to pass, wait for everyone else to resolve their turns, and then we'll move on to the 3rd phase, which is the Jeep tour phase, and my favorite. So looking at my Jeep, I've increased it, but I'm still in the 2 movement zone. So this means starting at my welcome center right here, I can move up to 2 tiles away, and I can choose to activate any of the tiles that I move across. So first movement, we're going to visit the security tile. I've assigned a meeple here, so I can take the action. Using my security worker, I'm going to increase my security by 2 levels for free. So that means I don't have to pay the 3 coins that I otherwise would. Now, this is a big part of the game. You'll notice at the bottom of all of these tiles, there's a green triangle with a number in it. That number is the excitement you gain by visiting the tile. Now, the security is an administration building. Your visitors and your park do not care one bit about visiting the security office. So I won't gain any. However, each time you visit, your guests get a little more bored with it. They want to see the latest and greatest in your park. So you're going to put one of these boredom tokens on it. That means the next time I visit the security tile, I'm going to take this number, so 0 in this case, and subtract whatever the number on the token says. So I do 0 minus 1. I'd actually have to pay excitement. So you won't really be able to activate all of the tiles each turn. You won't want to, depending on what you've got going on. So that was my first movement. I'm going to spend my second and final movement to visit my Stegosaurus because I built him and he's lonely and very cute and I want to say hi. So when you visit, you're going to gain excitement for each of your dinosaurs. So right now I only have the single Stegosaurus, so I'm just going to get 2 excitement. I'll blow this up a little bit. If I'd had 2 Stegosauruses, I would add 2 plus 2. If I had 3, I'd do 2 plus 2 plus 1. So they're cumulative. Because I just have the 1, I'll just gain 2 excitement. So this track up here, the excitement level, this is going to correlate to the income you get at the end of the round. So I have 2 excitement, I'm going to gain 2 money. Very nice. You'll notice, however, that it's not always a 1-to-1. Once you get to 5, you'll get 5 money, but at 6 excitement, you still get 5 money. So something to pay attention to so you don't miscalculate. Excitement also resets at the end of the round. It's basically, you have to re-earn your excitement engine each round. Your visitors are very picky. But let's finish resolving the Stegosaurus tile. We've done excitement. However, it's a dinosaur and sometimes accidents happen. So each time you visit a dino tile, you're going to also roll the dino attack die. Because the Stegosaurus is an herbivore, we're going to roll the green die, which has fewer death faces on it as compared to the small carnivore die and the large carnivore die. So I'm just going to roll the green and hope that we don't get any deaths. We didn't. They were very friendly today. If we did roll a death face, 1 or 2, we would take those tokens. They're worth negative points at the end of the game. However, only for the people, so whoever has the least amount of deaths is going to discard all of their death tokens. That's when their insurance policy kicks in. They, sweep all of those misfortunate souls underneath the rug and no one talks about it. However, all of their opponents who had more deaths will suffer negative victory points. So it may seem harsh to always be rolling a die, but there are ways to mitigate that. Similarly to all of the other tiles, once you visit your dinos, you place a boredom token on them because if you've seen one Stegosaurus, you've seen them all. So that is the end of my Jeep movement. It's also the end of the round. So after everyone's finished with their tour, the Jeep automatically goes back to the Welcome Center and we do cleanup. So we're going to remove all of the meeples from our public board, or our private board, sorry. We're going to compare our threat level and our security level. So mine is very low, go me. if my security level or my threat level was higher than my security, I would get 1 death token per the difference. So in this example, I would get 1 death token. And then we are going to look at this board over here. You'll gain your income based on your excitement level and also your Jeep bonuses. Don't forget that. And then we'd reset all of these, and turn order will change for the next round depending on victory points. So whoever is furthest behind on VPs will end up going first. So in this example, red is the furthest behind. They will become first player, and then green, and then blue, and then yellow is not actually playing in this example. That's what this little green bit is, reminding us to check excitement and all that. Then we move to round 2. And also get rid of the oldest 2 dinosaurs. Flip these up. And we would get rid of the oldest 2 attractions. Goodbye, Raptor Culinary Experience. Goodbye, Raptor Pen. And we'd move on to a new round. Now, you may have noticed this yellow symbol after round 3. That's something special that happens in our own park. So let me zoom back in on this park example. I'll grab another tile. So at the end of round 3, we're going to flip over our welcome center, turn it to a new park entrance, and we're going to move it 3 tiles away. This is going to help considerably with mitigating the boredom that we've accrued during the first 3 rounds of the game. You know, it's going to become a huge pain to be trapped by these tiles that have high boredom on them. They'll be costing you excitement. You won't be able to build your engine further. So to help make room for more tiles and to give you a leg up on the excitement track again, you're going to move your park far enough away that it's not touching any tile that it started next to. So I can't put it next to my incubator because I started next to it. I can't place it next to security, so it has to be at least 2 tiles away. And then you'll have quite a bit of space to expand on. That's not to say that you can't revisit the tiles you started on. I can, of course, vroom, pedal to the metal, scoot my little Jeep over here, but your boredom doesn't reset at all. So you'll likely have quite high boredom to pay. So you'll want your new tiles to make up for the excitement you'll be losing. So similarly to, well, we already talked about the end of the private phase, go until everyone passes. Otherwise, each round is similar, and we'll just go until the end of 5 rounds, set amount of time. After round 5, after we do all excitement and money and all that, we do still do income. We're going to gain VPs from the objective tiles and any endgame scoring tiles if you've built them in your park. And then money, leftover money at the end of the game is 5 coins to 1 point. Oh, and death tokens. I already explained how it works. Whoever has the least amount of death in their park will discard all of their death tokens. Everyone else will discard the same amount. So let me show you an example. Say blue, me, had 5 death tokens. Green had 3. And red had a whopping 10 death tokens. 3, who has the least, would discard all 3 of their tokens. Huzzah. Then blue and red would also discard 3. So blue would get rid of 2, and that would leave red with 7. I can grab that in one go. Nope. Then these have a sliding scale of negative victory points. It's not exactly 1-to-1. You are more harshly penalized the more you have. So you really should try not to let your guests be eaten. After that, whoever has the most victory points wins, just as we talked about. Perfect. That is the whole game. There are some more rules minutiae on specific tiles, but that really depends on what you buy. You can learn more by reading the rulebook that we have linked on the Kickstarter page. We have some wonderful playthroughs that are already recorded and some more live plays scheduled soon. Otherwise, check out the campaign page. You can find us on Kickstarter. You can find Pandasaurs specifically on social media, Pandasaurs Games. We hope you have fun with our new Dino game. That is it for today. I'm wrapping up 10 minutes early so we can all enjoy the rest of our nights. But thanks for tuning in. Have a good one.